All right, this is the Irish NFL show's NFC South way too early preview, and we come now to the team that are the putative favourites for the division, the Atlanta Falcons, Shane, who appeared at the time of the draft to be hell-bent on snatching defeat from the jaws of victory when they went and did that crazy thing, which, in fairness, enlivened all of our draft coverage, including our live show from the Clayton Hotel in Cork, when they drafted Michael Penix, having already paid a lot of money to land Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a franchise where all looked like it was about to go right, and then they managed to find a way to make it go wrong. And look, I said on the draft night that I can see more than other people. I can somewhat see what they were trying to do, in that they saw the Jordan Love situation in Green Bay. They said, "Look, wouldn't it be great if we had a veteran quarterback to sit in there, play for a couple of years, and have somebody who can learn in behind, learn the trade a bit, and then go in?" Because of course, it has been talked about a lot how sometimes there's too much pressure put on quarterbacks to play when they're drafted in the first round to be an instant hit in the NFL, like we see with Bryce Young.
And hands up, I kind of agreed with you as well, but it would have been a lot easier to sell that if you had Sam Darnold and not Kirk Cousins.
It would be a lot easier to sell that if you had Kirk Cousins, but you didn't sign him to as big of a contract as he got, or even if it was a shorter term contract. Fair enough. If it was 2 years, but not with the amount of time that Kirk Cousins is now supposed to be number one, and the fact that Kirk wasn't, there was no communication given to him that the pick will be decided in the way it is. Plus, you have to add into the fact that the Falcons had, in almost every statistic, either one of the worst or the worst defensive line plays in the league, and their secondary play wasn't great either. But you look at the pieces coming together. On offense, they have some great talents. We saw some of them play in London when I was over to watch them play against Jacksonville Jaguars. Bijan Robinson, great potential. Is it Drake London? Great potential. Kirk Cousins, great quarterback, great leader, somebody who can really spark an offense alive. If he gets injured and the GM is proven right and Penix comes in, there's great potential there. We look at the coaching situation. Zach Robinson is coming in from the LA Rams as the new offensive coordinator after being their pass game coordinator. They have the new head coach as well, who's coming over from Los Angeles and what seems to be almost attempted to become the LA Rams themselves. There's a lot there for it to go right, so it's almost inevitable that somewhere it's going to go wrong. And I'm not quite sure where that is. I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball in particular. There is every reason that Atlanta can go and just take this division and take control early on. When we look at all the pieces being put together, and even in the draft picks that they did and end up using, I think that being able to get Rook Ororo, I think that's the way to pronounce it, at defensive tackle early on, and I think focus most of their other draft picks on the defensive side of the ball as well. And even when I was chatting earlier on this year to a Sports Illustrated writer who's focusing on the ATL Falcons, I mean, it's clear that in a lot of areas they are trying to do the right thing. They are moving in a way which conventional wisdom says, okay, these guys are going to be better than a 7-10 team this year. You just have the feeling with these guys, something's going to go wrong. I don't know what it is. I don't think anybody knows what it is. If Kirk Cousins turns out to be a bit of a dud, or that he can't, or that he throws too many picks, or that there's too many arguments in the dressing room because Cousins isn't happy that they didn't give him a guy he wanted on offense, and he just does not feel the confidence of the organization in the way that he felt the confidence of the Vikings organization for the last few years. That's all it takes. And then somebody else comes and grabs this division. So there are reasons, in much as I said previously, there are reasons to think that the Saints can change their narrative. There are reasons for the Falcons' narrative to change. I just don't know. I just don't know exactly what the weakness is there, but I know that it's there.
No, to maybe spin it in a slightly more positive sense, I mean, there are good reasons why the Falcons are considered the favourites, to be fair. And, we can over-index on the Michael Penix situation, but if you look at the roster overall, and, even when Arthur Smith was there, and obviously you got a new head coach in town, so, that it's going to have its bearing, and we'll see what way that one plays out. But when Arthur Smith was there, if you just said you plug Kirk Cousins into that roster, I think a lot of people probably would have said, oh, now they're a contender. and there are good reasons, and it is possible to make that case for them.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm actually quite high on the Falcons going into the season because of the offense. I think, look, when it comes to the Penix move, I can see why there were a number of defensive players. They had a chance to get the number one defensive player in the draft, and they passed on it. And, you know, you could say in the here and now, that was a mistake. That defense could have used with someone like a Dallas Turner or a Byron Murphy in there, could have made a difference. But okay, fair enough. They're kind of following the Packers model. They're going with Penix, and we'll kind of see maybe in 2 or 3 years, everyone will look at and say genius move. But for right now, we look at, say, Zach Robinson has come in. He's going to play a similar kind of style to O'Connell in the Vikings. So that's something that's going to help Kirk Cousins. Maybe you look at them, we've a Drake London and Kyle Pitts haven't hit the heights that they were probably expected to hit by, you know, when they were drafted. So maybe a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins can come in, and if he hits the ground running, and if he's able to do what he done in Minnesota, well, then maybe you look at these young players and maybe their look starts to change. Maybe they start to fulfill, you know, that potential that was there. They bring in a Darnell Mooney, who I think is an excellent player when used correctly. He can really add. Bijan Robinson, I don't think was used correctly last year, and I think, you know, you'll be hoping someone like Robinson is going to come in and he's going to use that offense, this new offensive system to maybe take advantage of Robinson. And then you've got a good backup then in Tyler Algier behind. So for me, I look at this Atlanta offense and I think Kirk Cousins is obviously that key cog in the middle. If it can work out for him, if he can bring in what they're hoping he can, then you can look at these other younger players who haven't hit the heights you would have hoped. They're experienced now. They have a couple of years under their belt. You know, maybe this is now when that time can come together. You have a new coaching staff in there, so it's not the same old guys that were there previously. And I think for the Falcons, I think it could work. I think we've talked about how weaker this division is compared to most divisions. And I think they may be in a few shootouts, but I think they have the firepower now where they can win those shootouts, and it could at least take them to the playoffs. Now, I agree with the guys. They're probably not going very far in the playoffs. You need a bit more of a balanced team when you get that far. But for the actual regular season itself, I think this offense could put up a few points, and you know, I think it could be exciting to watch for some Falcons fans out there.
Kieran, let's zero in on Kirk Cousins in particular, because if you're a Falcons fan, what you want is the Kirk Cousins that was playing just before he got injured, because he was in the form of his life. Now, set against that, Kirk Cousins seems to have made a whole career out of looking sensational for about 5 or 6 games just at the right time, and he's done it again to land himself a massive contract. But, you know, over a bigger sample of games and over those big Monday night games and over those big playoff games, bar that one shining moment that he had in the You Like That era, it doesn't always end as well as it starts.
It takes a lot for a team to overshadow the Jets in batshit behavior. I'm going to go in on the Falcons. I'm really going to go in on the Falcons. I am absolutely, you know, I've heard all the different ramifications. Falcons have made a huge blunder here. They've made an absolute blunder. The only way that they are going to profit or reap any reward out of this, if you're going to get an absolutely pissed off Kirk Cousins showing up at training camp at Flowery Branch, Georgia every day, throwing rockets left, right, and center, and just playing out of his mind. He has got to be absolutely beyond pissed off at how this all played out. If he had known any of this, he would have stayed in Minnesota. I mean, it's the I don't want to say deceit because that's too strong of a word, but the cloak and daggers games that Fontenot played with Cousins it's just astronomical. And the way they've kind of dressed it up and say, oh, you know, we're bringing Penix in for this, and we're bringing him in for Penix is 24 already. He's not going to want to sit for another 2 or 3 years. His knees are shut out, so he's not a guarantee to even do anything in the league. So you know by picking Penix, now you've incurred the wrath of Cousins, a generally mild-mannered, chill person on camera. But you know he's got to have a fire burning inside him. He has got to be beyond pissed off.
But Shane mentioned Jordan Love earlier. Maybe that's exactly what Fontenot in his crazy eye was thinking. Well, like, if I can get the best out of him, just the way the Packers squeezed 2 MVP seasons out of Aaron Rodgers, crazy, piling him up to 11.
Fontenot and crazy do go together in this particular circumstance. It's a bananas move. I don't understand any of the decision making. And I know that clip you saw from the draft where Fontenot's talking to blank. That's going to be a meme for a long time when stuff starts going south. Now I think Cousins is going to be great. I mean, he only played 8 games last year. He had great stats. He sprayed the ball around. He was doing great until the Achilles went out. He's a great quarterback, and that's why he's earned that money. How he's going to show up? Is he going to be that? Is he going to have that fire within and just be absolute play like his hair is on fire? That remains to be seen. Do they have a great does he have a great surrounding cast? Yeah, he's got some real good weapons on the offense. Bijan Wright, we've already talked about him, and a top 5 O-line in the NFL too. So he's got everything in his favor, and it's everything in Atlanta's favor to do well. But I just don't see it happening. I mean, they were 7-10 last year. I've seen a lot of people say 12-5 for the Falcons this year. I don't see that at all either. I think Tampa is going to finish ahead of them. I think there's too much dysfunction in Atlanta, which is crazy because when you look at the team on paper, and again, we talk about on paper, the Eagles should have strolled to the Super Bowl last year. On paper, the Falcons look great. Super O-line. They've addressed the defense. I think they're going to be running with a 3-4. They drafted 2 really good linebackers in Braylon Trice and J.D. Bertrand. So they're set up in all the places that they need to. Even kicker, Young Hui Koo. They're set up everywhere on the field. But it's Atlanta. Same ways we talk about the Jets, and we'll get to them later on down. I'll keep hammering the Jets too, but it's Atlanta. Like we'll bring up the Roy Keane analogy. Lads, it's Spurs. Players know when they go into play, when they go to Atlanta in the nice, beautiful Mercedes Dome, it's going to be, they're not going to be, pinned back, and they're not going to be beaten around the field. Now they have upgraded. It's not Marcus Mariota. It's not Desmond Ridder. Yes, it is Kirk Cousins out there, but it's still going to be the same old Falcons.
But just another thing, I mean, even when we looked at the Atlanta for the last couple of years, the fact that, what we've done now is we've solidified our quarterback situation. No, you haven't. What you've done now is when Kirk Cousins goes out there in prime time or in week 1 or 2 and makes mistakes at home, you're going to have the whole stadium chanting, bring in the new guy. Like you're not exactly backing him, and you're just leading on the fans to start questioning yourself. And we've seen this in other franchises when your own fan base kind of undermines confidence in yourself. And as well as that, I mean, I also hope that they still keep giving Kirk Tuesdays off so he can go for.
You mean
nice
Shane, like when fans were chanting for Bailey Zappi? Well, that must have been an all-time low.
Honestly, that game against the Patriots on Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears is honestly a traumatic moment because that was when the Patriots became a dysfunctional organization. And there's nothing saying that, well, maybe not that exactly, but something similar won't happen here. Kirk goes down injured. One game where Pennis comes in, has a great game. Kirk comes in the next week after coming back, has a crap first half. Crowd wants Penix. Pennis comes in and throws 2 interceptions and gets egg on his face in the second half. There's nothing saying that won't happen.
Yeah, very true. All right. Well, Vegas has the Falcons soaring. I don't think it's fair to say that we're entirely convinced that the Dirty Birds are actually going to get out of the mud, but we shall see. This is the